Good morning guys, Alan here from Plant Powered Fitness Munich. My channel is all about health and fitness, personal development, business, etc, etc. Basically turning our lives around and keeping on course and trying to improve ourselves on a daily basis. So if you find that the content of this channel or this video appeals to you and resonates with you, please just gently give the subscribe button a little tap along with the notification button, and you won't miss any of the videos that are coming out. So let's crack on with what we're going to be talking about today. Okay guys, so the subject of today's video is mentorship, mentors. Who are the mentors that have influenced me during my journey through life, and how it can really help you set a path and give you an anchor when it comes to your journey of self-development, fitness, business, or whatever. Now, obviously the first influences on our lives are our parents. They're the first real mentors that we have, especially in the first 8 years, which is very, very important developmentally for human beings, but of course also through the teenage years, etc. And I'm sure most of us, have got stories of little messages that our parents passed on to us, little sayings that they had that are positive, that still resonate with us to this day. I know with my own parents, when I think of my mum, the first thing that comes to mind is self-sacrifice. When I think of my dad, it's his work ethic. My dad always used to say, better to be half an hour early than 1 minute late. And that's something that I still think about today. So we've all got little stories like that. I realise that some people come from homes, where unfortunately, because of the environment that a child grows up in, it can be very negative, and there's not many positive things that they can think of with their parents to class them as mentors. That's very, very unfortunate. But it doesn't mean to say that if that's the case, that it's the end of the game as far as people are concerned. You can pick up mentors later in life. You can always make a decision to change things. And people, if they go on to college or university or whatever, often they pick up mentors in those environments. In the workplace, when people go to work, you come across people who have a very important influence on your life. But again, if that's not the case, it doesn't have to be the end of the game in terms of personal development. You can pick up virtual mentors, people online, lifestyle coaches, business tutors. I wanted to talk about a few of the mentors that have had a real influence on my life, guys. Probably the first one is going back 25 years ago now. Somebody that I came across called Jack Black. Jack Black was a social worker working in the Glasgow area of Scotland. And in his book, which is called Mind Store, he talks about how he was massively burnt out and stressed by his job as a social worker in Glasgow, and how he collapsed on one occasion when he was coming home from work or something, and resolved that he was going to actually turn his life around and change things, that he couldn't carry on living like that. And what happened was he ended up doing a lot of research into personal development coaches, the way the brain functions in terms of the electrical patterns of the brain and so forth, and he developed a system called Mind Store and wrote a book about it. And that was the first personal development book that I came across. And I would thoroughly recommend the techniques that he uses in his Mind Store system. When I go back to my 20s, when I think about people who used to read developmental books that I knew at work and so forth, I always used to think that the whole subject was a little bit gaga. I used to think that these personal development coaches and so forth, that they were just rip-off merchants. They were basically coming up with all this stuff just to make money, to sell books and courses and so forth. But later on down the line, I realised the value that these people can offer. Obviously, you have to be discerning. And Jack Black is one of the most positive influences that I've had on my life, if I'm being quite honest with you. The Mind Store techniques that he promotes are something that I still use to this day, and even if I go for a period of time without using them, I always come back to his system, because like for all of us, sometimes you get a little bit off track in life. And the great thing about his system is that you can always go back to it and use it as an anchor. to get yourself back on track. So the book's called Mind Store and it's by Jack Black. That's the first one that I'd like to mention. The next mentor that's had a big positive influence on me, guys, is Tony Robbins. Now, Tony Robbins is obviously probably the most famous personal development coach in the world, but his book, Awaken the Giant Within, is something that I would recommend very, very highly for people who have got into a kind of a rut in their lives, if you like. You've got to the stage where maybe you've got into a rut with your job, you can't seem to move things forward. You know, you want to go and work for yourself rather than work for somebody else, but you can't get the motivation to do it. Awaken the Giant Within by Tony Robbins is a fantastic book for giving you that kickstart, if you like. It's a tome of a book, but you find that it's very, very readable quickly and really gives you that kind of motivation. And I reread that about 6 or 7 years ago, and that's had a massive impact on me. So Awaken the Giant Within by Tony Robbins. The next one that I'd like to mention, guys, is a guy called Daniel Priestley, who is a business coach. His book, Entrepreneur Revolution, is again another book that had a massive influence on me and turned my life around from being employed to being self-employed and starting and running my own business. Entrepreneur Revolution is a fantastic book. It's about how we're moving from the industrial age into the technological age and how all businesses should be built to facilitate that. So, Entrepreneur Revolution, Daniel Priestley. The next book that I'd like to mention, guys, is A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle. So we're looking more at the spiritual side of things now. So Eckhart Tolle, probably the most famous spiritual teacher in the world. 2 books, A New Earth and The Power of Now. The Power of Now is probably the most famous of his 2 books, but I actually found that A New Earth resonated with me more. So again, you know, what we're trying to do on this channel is look at ways of balancing everything out. Business, fitness, diet, but spirituality as well. So if you're looking to widen your horizons and start to look at the world from different perspectives and to develop your spirituality, A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle. Guys, if you're looking for a book to, you know, turn your life around, if you're in a situation whereby you want to turn your life around, change things up, maybe from a position of real desperation, quite frankly, then one book that I would recommend is by a guy called Rich Roll, and it's called Going Ultra. And Rich Roll basically is very famous now as a podcaster and again self-development coach and vegan. And he went from a situation where he was drinking heavily, grossly overweight. And in his book he recounts an occasion when he was running up the stairs at the age of 40 or so and started having heart palpitations and realised that his lifestyle and diet had got completely out of control. And not only that, he was having a real problem as well with alcohol, and had to admit to himself that he was an alcoholic. And he talks about his journey on giving up alcohol and turning his life around. So for pure inspiration, Going Ultra by Rich Roll for sure. If you're looking for a book, guys, that's all about perspective in life and getting our priorities right and so forth, I would say a book by Robin Sharma called The Buddha Who Sold His Ferrari is a very, very good book to read. Gives us a sense of perspective on everything and makes us realise that the value of things aren't just measured in pounds and pence or euros or dollars or whatever, and that there are things that are much more important than those kind of consumable things that we can get very easily involved with. The Buddha Who Sold His Ferrari by Robin Sharma. Excellent book. Guys, if you're looking for pure motivation and pure drive, you can't go much further than Gary Vaynerchuk, that's for sure. I know that he's not everybody's cup of tea, but Gary Vaynerchuk, he's written a number of books, but he's most famous for his YouTube channels, Daily V and so forth. So if you're looking at business development and just pure motivation, Gary Vaynerchuk for sure. We all need to look after our finances as well, guys. So if you're looking for a financial mentor, somebody like Robert Kiyosaki, say for instance, would be a great option. His book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, is a fantastic read and is all about the value of education in finances. He also does a fantastic podcast called The Rich Dad Radio Show. So finances, my tip, Robert Kiyosaki. Somebody else who's been really influential on me as well, guys, is Brian Rose over at London Real, the London Real Academy. If you're looking to up your game in terms of business and again, having a positive outlook on life, being an entrepreneur. If you're an entrepreneur, Brian Rose is a fantastic mentor. He's actually currently running for London Mayor as well. So if you check out London Real TV on YouTube, definitely worth a look as well. Guys, another very influential business book that I've read in the past is the book by Alan Sugar, or Lord Sugar, from the UK. It's called What You See Is What You Get. And if you're looking for a book that shows how somebody can go from not having absolutely nothing. You know, Alan Sugar was raised in a very poor family in Hackney, which is in the East End of London, and turned himself into a multi-billionaire, starting off with selling car aerials out of the back of a van. So you know, you can't if you're an entrepreneur and a business person, self-employed, there's nothing more inspirational than that book. It's absolutely fantastic. Another Daniel Priestley book, guys, in terms of business, is a book called Key Person of Influence, which is all about how entrepreneurs and self-employed people can really, you know, elevate their status through social media and digital techniques online in order to establish a flourishing, productive and profitable business. So, Key Person of Influence, Daniel Priestley as well. Again, on the spirituality front, guys, somebody that I've discovered in the last year or so is Rupert Speerer. He's absolutely excellent. He has a YouTube channel as well, Rupert Speerer. Very similar to Eckhart Tolle. He talks about his philosophies on non-duality and one consciousness and goes very, very deep philosophically on that.